We're here with us today, Duopharma Biotech Group Operations CEO, Jeffery. He's set to reveal his company's groundbreaking healthcare innovation strategy, right? In his presentation, Jeffery will dive into Duopharma's comprehensive digital transformation journey. Additionally, he will share his insights on critical factors shaping the company's future in rapid evolving healthcare landscape. Without further ado, let's give him a warm welcome. Our distinguished speaker for today, Jeffery. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so smarter solutions, healthier life. Now, it's interesting. We've basically, as a company, we've gone through a journey of transformation, not just from digitalization, but also from the point of view of even branding, because we were previously known as CCM, Duopharma, Biotech, Berhad. How many of you know CCM? I know MIDA knows CCM very well, so, okay. So we're a chemical company of Malaysia. We were part of CCM before. Now, we demerged from CCM back in 2017, and we went through this process of rebranding. So we called Duopharma Biotech Berhad. A whole year of trying to, crack our heads and figure out what we're going to call ourselves, and then we decided we'll just drop CCM. So, no-brainer. So that's our name tag, Smarter Solutions, Healthier Life. Now, Duopharma, we've been around for, I think, more than 40 years. We started off acquiring assets throughout the state of Selangor. So in Malaysia, there's about, I think, 48 to 49 pharmaceutical manufacturers, the smallest to the biggest. So we are a 34 million population in Malaysia. We're not a big market. As such, building a pharmaceutical industry or investing in pharmaceutical is always a challenge. But what we have done is basically build a company that is based on this focus of trying to be a bit different than other companies. So when you are in Malaysia, you're generally manufacturing generics. There's no, innovator products per se. That's all in the West. Some in China now, interesting. So China is producing new chemical entities, meaning new drugs, not generics. So we do generics. And being a generics company means that you're manufacturing something that everybody else is manufacturing. So you have to do it cheaper. So in terms of trying to diversify ourselves, what we do is we move into the biosimilar side. So I'm sorry if I'm bamboozling you with a lot of words, and it's not my intention, but that's all I know. So biosimilar is basically a similar category of products that is a copy of a biopharma product. So if generics is a chemical copy of an innovator chemical product, biosimilar is basically a copy of a biopharma product. So it's made from living cells, not chemicals. Sorry if I'm confusing you even more. But we've got 300 generic drugs. We have currently one biosimilar, and we're very proud of it, and I'll be talking to you a little bit about it. We also have a lot of consumer healthcare products, OTC products. Some of the brands are Flavets, Euphamol, Naturel, eye drops, Proviton, multivitamins, Champs for children, etc. So those are our products. Don't let anybody else tell you otherwise. So we are owned by Permodalan Nasional Berhad, PNB. EPF owns some shares in the company as well, about 4% foreign shareholding. The rest is floated on Bursa. Okay. Just quickly, this is basically our core values and our corporate culture. Our smarter solutions for healthy life, that's the tagline. We're trying to be a bit different in terms of our business models and the products that we bring into the market. So we are the largest in Malaysia in terms of value and volume. That doesn't come from me, it comes from IQVIA, which is a third-party independent report. Okay, so brief history. We started back in 1978. I won't go through the entire thing. Listed on the Malaysian Stock Exchange on Bursa in 2002. We did, okay, so this is the thing that I'm proud of. We basically did a clinical phase 3 product development for erythropoietin, which is a biosimilar product. We worked with a Korean company called Biotech. So we did phase 3 clinicals. And clinical development in phase 3 means you have to use a product on as many patients as you think is necessary to give you the results that you're looking for in terms of safety and efficacy. So that's what we've done. And that passed the muster, we registered it, etc. We're also the exclusive distribution and marketing partner for Biocon's insulin. Biocon has a FDA-approved facility in Johor. And we acquired some equity in Penang and SEM Life Sciences, 2 different companies in Korea. Basically, one is the company that developed the erythropoietin product that we were working on. And also a stem cell company called SEM Life Science. So SEM is interesting because they've developed different products that we still need to take through clinicals, phase 3, and spend quite a lot of millions in order to bring the product to the patients, right? We were also involved in terms of bringing in vaccines for COVID, our dark period. We brought in Sinopharm's vaccine. Initially, we were supposed to bring in the Russian vaccine, Sputnik V. WHO didn't approve it, so we were told to fly kites. So we went with Sinopharm, brought in the vaccines, and then suddenly COVID went away. I tell you. But it's an interesting journey. I think I will talk a little bit about that in terms of the digitalization journey using the vaccine, COVID-19 vaccine experience. So these are our customers. We're basically supplying about 8% to 9% of the entire MOH drug requirement, drug supply. So in terms of breakdown, revenue-wise, we supply about 52% to MOH, about 46% to the private sector, and the rest to international markets. So our international market is not big, it's about 6%, small. Okay. So these are the three facilities. There's 2 of the same picture there, 2 same site, 2 different things. So Duopharma Malaysia Sdn Bhd is based in Klang. We acquired it back in 2005. It's largely our government tender business. Products comes from the Klang facility, okay? The Bangi facility is really our private sector business facility. And Happy is basically not happy pills, but it's a high potent active pharma ingredient plant. It's basically very toxic, like if you swallow, you die. These are the raw materials. But we manufacture anti-cancer / oncology products from there. So breast cancer, blood cancer, all sorts of different cancer products. So it's the first of its kind, and it uses this isolator. You put gloves in, your hand into gloves, and then you work within a very vacuum-type facility. And at the same time, our R&D facility is also located on the same site in Glenmarie as well. So everything is in Selangor. Okay. So regional presence, we've got offices and our marketing and sales teams in Singapore, Manila, as well as in Jakarta. In terms of our sales force, we have 240 throughout the country and also the region, etc. And then the red dots are where we are located and also our depots. And we are export to about 31 countries. I checked this morning, it's 32 countries. Even if we sell one product, we consider that a market, obviously, right? So largely in ASEAN, APAC, as well as rest of the world and Middle East. So okay, we move into the digital journey in pharmaceuticals. I have to warn you, I'm not a digital guy, okay? Group operations doesn't mean I do everything. My boss thinks that, but anyway, so this is just showing you that we are actually trying to be as aligned as possible to what the government aspires the country to do from a digitalization, automation perspective. We are a government-linked company because we are owned by, PNB, owned by EPF, and so on and so forth, right? So by virtue of that, we are a GLC. So we do have programs that we have to embark on, we have to participate in, which the government supports. But this is obviously something that we do because we believe it's relevant to us. So what's important is the bottom bit where you talk about the manufacturing operations, supply chain, and sales operations. So how does this digital transformation journey exemplifies what the government wants us to do? But more importantly, I think in my case, is what our shareholders want us to do. So anyway, okay, so in terms of our strategy, we started digitalization back in 2018. To be even more accurate, I think we started in 2010 when we started adopting SAP from Excel sheet, right? So that's the digitalization aspect of it. You use ERP because it's very important for everything that you do within the company. So we've done that. What we realize is that spending money where it matters. So the priority is always to make sure that we allocate the funds that is required immediately for business purposes, compliance purposes, to ensure that we get the returns on investment as well. So real-time tracking is basically supply chain. And as I was saying, vaccines, it's something that you have to monitor in that manner. And now we are doing it for all our cold chain products, mainly cold chain, because otherwise your products can go really bad really fast, right? So manufacturing automation, this is costing us a lot. But obviously it's important for us to do this because it gives us a lot of returns from a compliance perspective, reduction in wastages. Because when, I give you an example, let's say we used to have a lot of manual labor doing packing of our products. And then you have, certain products, let's say it's underfilled if it's a liquid product. Or if it's a tablet product, you underpack, all right? So automation, camera sensors, et cetera, will help us to ensure that we resolve these issues. So that's what we've done. We spend, I think, around 6 to 7 million buying those 6 cartoning machines. Data analytics and business intelligence. I would say these things are great, but if your data is dirty, it needs to be hygienic, it needs to be clean, then your first task that you need to do is basically make sure that your data is cleaned up, restructured, et cetera, so that it makes sense for you. So embarking on digitalization is great because you're addressing certain challenges that you have in terms of actually being a lot more productive, being a lot more compliant, being able to produce more products and sell more products quickly. But if you have data that is obviously not helping you, then the first task that you have to do is clean up those data. So the key deliverables that we have is efficiency and productivity, better customer experience, visibility and transparency, and also cost reduction. Okay. All right, so I'll start off with our automated manufacturing. So you tell me if it's groundbreaking or not. But when we started off, we have equipments that have been in facilities that were built in the 1970s. So after, you're stretching it when you go 20 years, right? So you have to replace them around 15 years of use, after 15 years of use. But we've stretched our facilities as much as possible because we're trying to sweat the asset as much as possible. But doing that means that you're pushing your the actual eventual work that you need to do later, and you're just delaying the pain. So what we've been doing so far in the last 7 years is spend about 400 million trying to, rejuvenate our assets, bring in new machines, etc., etc. And those machines have to be able to talk to each other. So there's systems that you have to bring in as well. So remote systems, building management system, continuous monitoring systems, pilot OE systems, etc. They have their time within the context of the last 7 years that we've included them into our acquisitions. But there are important things that we have to do. The other thing that I think is also important is the people aspect of it. You can bring in the equipment and the systems, but if your people are not well trained to use the systems, it's also a problem. So I think it's part and parcel of that development or that transition is actually developing your manpower to be able to use the systems well enough. Okay, so then the supply chain. Okay, I was talking about the vaccines experience with COVID-19. Was working on Sputnik V. So I can tell you that I actually, because Sputnik V is a product that is, if I'm not mistaken, about 68 degrees below, minus 68 degrees Celsius. So minus 68 degrees Celsius means you have to freeze those things. And you have to freeze it, and you have to make sure that the supply chain all the way from, let's say, St. Petersburg, on the ship, on the plane, is carried through into the port, into our warehouse, into the hospitals or the PPVs, as they used to call it. Remember that word? That bad word? The Pusat Pemberian Vaccine. And so you have to make sure that it meets all those requirements. So thank God WHO didn't approve it. Otherwise, I would have to spend a lot of money buying freezers and possibly containers with freezers. But what's important with supply chain products is that you have to keep them circa 2 to 8 degrees Celsius. So insulin, you have to do that. And when you do that, you must know that throughout the entire life of that product, until you inject it into the patient, they are within 2 to 8 degrees. Otherwise, they break down and they're not efficacious anymore, right? So you can't use them. There's a certain time that after you take out from the freezer, you can actually keep it out there for about, maybe 7-8 hours. After that, you have to use it. But so those are the challenges that we have. So we've had to invest in track and trace capabilities, supply chain capabilities, freezing capabilities, all sorts of things in terms of monitoring the products, etc. Okay. So QMS, okay, quality management system. This is the bit where we talk about how it's a highly regulated industry, so you have to have the systems in place. So TQM is a system that basically implements a compliance-centric PQS solutions. It's all alien to me, but what's important is that you're actually meeting the regulatory requirements for the products that you're manufacturing to make sure that they are complying to the safety, the quality, and the efficacious requirements of GMP, all right? So there's PICS. PICS basically is a EU-related standard where basically it's called Pharmaceutical Inspection Cooperation Scheme, okay, PICS. Am I blocking the way? So NPRA, or the country, is actually a member of PICS from a GMP perspective. See if I can remember this. US 21 CFR is an audit for automated systems or systems that you use in manufacturing of your products. Okay, so we have to make sure that we are compliant to US 21 CFR, or otherwise, they will also consider our products not compliant. GAMP5, now I've forgotten about what that is, but this is, I think, good automated manufacturing practice. So it has its own framework, and you have to, as a company in Malaysia, you have to meet it if you want to export your products outside. So the enforcement of right first-time concept in pharmaceuticals is important because it's going to cost you if you don't get it right. So every batch that you manufacture, it can be just written off. Sorry if it's dry. But, okay, so GMP-related computer system software. What you're seeing here on this slide is basically GMP-related automated softwares. The biggest circle there means that you have a lot more activities related to that particular software. So this is Nova QMS, or Quality Management System, for quality QA, quality assurance. SAP, as I mentioned earlier, is an ERP planning activity, so it has all these different functions that is basically contained in it. Raw materials, packaging materials on Hanwell, warehousing, temperature stability, all these systems are actually what we use within the pharmaceutical industry, and it uses a lot of data, it uses a lot of digital requirements, etc. And of course, we have to have very strong Wi-Fi capabilities, etc., that will make sure that the facilities, or the systems will actually work. Okay. All right, so this is more interesting because I'm on the commercial side mainly. Telehealth. Telehealth. In pharmaceuticals, there are not that many companies in Malaysia that has a telesales function. So Duopharma is, I think, the only company now that has it. And I was explaining during an interview earlier, the reason why this is important to us is because we have different categories of products, right? So you have the really new, or the new products, which you need to detail to the doctors and the nurses in certain cases. And you also have the older commoditized products. So older commoditized products, you don't need to actually detail it. You don't need the face-to-face resource to go down to the ground and tell the doctors that you need to use this. So things like statin, for example, for your blood pressure or your cardio drug, or your anti-infectives, i.e. your antibiotics. You don't need to go and tell the doctor that this is a very good antibiotic. They know it is because it's been around for the last 30, 40 years. So it's not a new drug. So what's important is to take these products and let the telehealth team do that work. So the telehealth team has this omni-channel approach to it. So they use WhatsApps, emails, calls, etc. One is to remind them of the need to restock. Two is to also tell them that there's new products that are coming online, etc., etc., and we will send the face-to-face detailers to you, and so on and so forth. So I think it has helped us to grow the business by a circa 10 to 11% CAGR, so which is an interesting model. So we can now offer the same services to other companies who believe that that would be the right way that they want to do this, grow into the market. So it's actually called Duopharma Connects. It's covered by the visual, the graphic. But Duopharma Connects, in short, is basically a platform that helps us to train our staff internally, train our customers on the use of the drugs, track inventory across our range of customers. It's not fully implemented yet, but it's starting. E-catalogs can also be shared with our customers. And it's basically going to be a tool, not for e-commerce per se, but more for healthcare professionals to keep in touch with Duopharma's progress and new products that we are launching, detailing materials, scientific materials that they require, etc., etc. So it will be on this platform. It's also an internal platform where you can actually train your staff as well. So I think this is something that perhaps some of the companies are doing outside of Malaysia, but within Malaysia, I don't think there's anybody else doing this. Okay, I'll give you an example which is very useful. Let me know if I'm going over time, Joachim. Okay, there's dangerous drugs. So certain categories of drugs are called dangerous drugs or poisons, right? So you cannot just sell it to anybody. You have to only sell it to people who has poison licenses, right? Right now, poison licenses are held by pharmacists. It has to be held by pharmacists. They are regulated people, right? So they hold it, and then they register their facility, let's say their pharmacy, under a particular name. So Prateek, for example, works for ABC Pharmacy. You are a pharmacist, you're the poison license holder. Suddenly, your license lapses. In December last year, when you are supposed to renew, I can have access to your renewed license being valid. But during the year, I don't have visibility again because the customers don't keep sending you a monthly basis what happens, right? So if the government and the industry have a shared platform where they share the data, link up, and we know what's happening at any point in time. This second or next second, if your license is revoked or you've, God forbid, passed on, whatever it is, you've stopped working with that company, 5 more minutes. Okay, I'll move on. Then you can't have visibility. So with this, you can have visibility, provided NPRA or pharmacy department of MOH works with you. Right. Sorry, I'll just open them all up. So in terms of challenges, obviously resources, money. Like I said earlier, we have to prioritize. Technology, that also costs money as well, but it's also integration of technology, I think is very important. Personnel, training people that have, well, I think training is not difficult, but to change mindset is very difficult. From one, well, not generation, but generation. From one groups of people who may have worked with Duopharma for the last 20 years or whatever it is, and suddenly you introduce a system, they refuse to use it. Hybris, for example, I don't know whether you know Hybris. It's basically a system that helps you to have visualize graphs, etc., based on the data that you've got, right? So they don't use it because they say, waste of time, I just go and sell. But when you look at this data, it actually tells you where you should be selling, where you should not be selling. Anyway, so okay, I'll move on. Security, yeah. So I think now we have got a lot of people getting hacked, banks getting hacked, pharmaceutical company almost got hacked. So, security is a problem. Enhanced data integration, predictive analytics, utilization, predictive modeling, and machine learning. That's what's next. Whether Duopharma spends money on these things, I don't know. We are very, very careful with what we move into. We've invested in some companies on a strategic basis because we have access to the technology, et cetera, et cetera. And in terms of digitalization, we decided one day that, okay, let us try to understand the space better because there are a lot of companies that are out there doing all sorts of health apps, improvement of health, et cetera, and they work with insurance companies. So we thought that might be a good place to start. So invested in a company called Naluri Hidup, which is started by a guy called Azran Rani Osman, formerly of Asia X. And we thought it was a good platform because we wanted to try to understand whether that platform can help us to also have better visibility in terms of compliance of insulin drugs or patients on renal drugs and so on and so forth, and we can use it to track how patients are doing via that app. It's a long-haul project, if you ask me. The readiness of patients themselves to even input into the system, because it's basically like Google Maps, it's user input kind of data, information. So yes, okay, 1 more minute. What's next? There's a lot of things. So, I mean, I think you know some of this, a lot of these buzzwords, predictive modeling, AI, 4D printing, you can print tablets, capsules, et cetera. I think there's a lot of issues in terms of compliance and regulatory from that perspective. But we are keeping tabs, and so hopefully we can be, better than where we are today. Yes, so in terms of, we aspire to be, we're number 9 now in ASEAN. We hope to be number 5. Supposed to be next year, but let's see. So some of the things that we want to do is obviously look at how we can enhance our offering to the market via using digital platforms, etc. And I want to be able to also say that we are improving patients' compliance to drugs, that we're increasing health care and wellness rather than caring for people who are sick. I think that's where MOH is going, and we're also going in that way because we also manufacture products and develop products, not just in the medicine space, but also in the functional food space. And I think you can maybe monitor how Duopharma is doing. Hopefully we can, you can see that we're introducing new, interesting products that will not just heal your illnesses, because I think that will still continue to be the bulk of the requirements, but also to improve your healthcare and your wellness. So I think digitally, there's various different ways we can do it, but that's so far what we've done. Hopefully I've given you a picture. I think that's the last slide. Yeah. So thank you very much for listening. I haven't bored you to death, but I overshot my time. Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, coming up next is the executive plenary session, Advancing Manufacturing and Logistics. Our next session, we will delve into the transformative power of digital adoption. Our speaker will take us into factors that influences continuous adoption of technology in this rapid evolving landscape. They also address the critical topics that attract top talent and building essential partnership to achieve growth goals. At the end of the session, don't worry, there's Q&A opportunity if you'd like to throw any questions on them, anything that they brought up. But of course, please welcome Mr. Prateek Pashine from Maxis, Chief Enterprise Business Officer. Give him a round of applause, everybody, for my big boss. And of course, with him together, we'd like to invite Wan Hashimah Wan Salleh from MIDA, Malaysian Investment Development Authority. Wan Hashimah is also the Executive Director, Manufacturing Development with MIDA. All right, that round of applause, of course. Together with them, we also like to invite Ms. Eileen Tan from Aqina Farm. Eileen currently serves as the Head of Business Development and Marketing Division at Aqina Farm, where she leads initiatives to expand Aqina Farm market presence and foster strategic partnership. Last but not least, we have here from ABB Malaysia, Laurent Maillefer, right? Laurent has been in Malaysia for 14 years already, with roles covering the Asia-Pacific region, and he currently heads the robotic and discrete automation business of ABB in Malaysia. Please give them a round of applause.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. And Jeff, thank you very much for setting the tone for this afternoon. I learned few things, and I think what Jeff talked about sets the stage for what we're going to discuss. This is not going to be just 3 and 4 of us talking about it. We need participation from all of you because we want to hear from you. And I think, I believe shared learning is the best form of learning, learning from peers in the industry, learning from what each one of you are doing in your company, and copy pasting it to the extent possible, adapting it, but kind of leveraging from the shared learnings that we've all had. Few years back, and I think we saw Jeff talking about a digital journey starting 2010, when SAP was first kind of adopted by Duopharma. Few years back, a CEO of a big banking group in Europe was asked, "What business are you in?" And something that he said actually stayed with me all these years. And he said, "We are a technology company with a banking license." He didn't say we are a bank. He said we are a technology company with a banking license. And if you think about it, each one of us are technology company with a logistics license, technology company with a farming expertise, technology company with a heavy machinery expertise. So I think at the gut of every business is technology. And I think we can't belabor more how important critical technology is. One example from Jeff's presentation, he talked about telehealth. I remember in my days, and my wife's a dentist, there is a concept, and I come from India, so I'm going to use that example, of a medical representative. This is a gentleman, typically a gentleman, who goes doctor to doctor to talk about what medicines I have and how to make sure that my brand of medicine is recommended to the patients. That medical representative who goes around clinics has got replaced by telehealth, where instead of the person, it's now being done over video conferencing or app. And I think that's how technology, doesn't matter which industry you take, is getting adopted. And I think that's a great example of how in the industry everybody is transforming. Another thing, one cue that I got from Jeff was, I think he defined technology, digitalization as 3 T's, and this is my interpretation of that. One is having a clear technology roadmap, and I think Jeff talked about up to 2030, what are the things that they're going to do. The second, I think he talked about, and it at least was there on the slide, was trials. Experiment. If we don't experiment, things, we will never know what works and what doesn't. So experimentation is critical to a technology transformation. And the third he talked about is culture. How do you, yes, you may have the best technologies, best solutions, but how are you transforming internally? And I think Jeff left us with a lot of insights on technology. So before we get started, what I'm going to ask all of you, and since we are a mobile phone company at our heart, mobile phone needs to be used for the rest of the session. So please take out your mobile phones and please dive in right away. And please,
Can we influence the question?
Request you to get your phone and get the responses on what do you think are the biggest barriers for digital transformation in a company?
Can I see the QR code again?
Can we go back to the QR code, please? Stay on the QR code for a bit longer. Yeah, some more time. Okay, now you can go to the responses. It's interesting, and implementation cost, we talked about culture, right? That seems to be popping up right there, resistance to change, culture shift. A little surprised at leadership commitment. I often hear that leadership, it has to start at the top. Unless you have the leadership commitment, it becomes difficult. But thank you for your feedback, and that brings us to our panel's first question. If you were to select one of these, can we go back to one of these, Laurent, pick one. What would be your one biggest barrier to digital transformation?
Well, I think what you mentioned earlier, that the leadership commitment, I'm not picking up on you there, trying to put it as number one, but definitely it needs to start with the commitment from the top so that the entire company knows what is the strategy, which line to follow in order to have a certain logic in the way things are done. I have seen examples where companies are trying to move along in digitalization by giving incentive KPI to their employees to find solution that could help improve the overall process or the quality of the product or the throughput of the machine. But each one is looking at their own particular line, production line, with an individual point of view without looking at the big picture. And you might end up with sub-optimizing things. You know, for that particular line, this is a great solution.
But if you look at the impact on the overall production assets that you have, for example, that might not be the best. Or suddenly you can double your production, but upstream they are not able to give you twice the number of parts that you need. So you have doubled your production, but upstream they cannot help you. So the commitment from leadership is important to give a clear guideline where we want to go, what are the priorities, what we want to achieve first, so that everyone in the company understands where they should focus and make sure that you have alignment all along the chain. So that if you optimize your own line to have double the capacity in production, your friend upstream is able to deliver double the parts to you as well.
So Laurent, and I'm going to pick on that because exactly, and see, I think that's the beauty of this, right? What you face in manufacturing, I'm facing the similar thing in telecom, and it kind of crosses borders across industries. We have a team which outbounds calls customer when their contract is coming up for renewal, and we integrated it into auto dialer. So now instead of the customer agent dialing each number and trying, it was auto dialer. Now what happened was the auto dialer improved the efficiency of these customer agents dramatically, but the upstream activity, which was to send the campaigns, they did not have enough campaigns. So now the guy said, I have run out of calls to make because you're not giving me enough campaigns because I'm making more calls. So exactly, how do you make sure that each part of your business works to truly bring about?
And downstream, if you call me 6 times, I don't pick up.
True. Eileen, if you had to pick one of these as the biggest barrier, what would that be?
I think I'm speaking from SME and mid-sized company perspective. So I would say high implementation cost is definitely one of the biggest concern for us, speaking from experience. For us, I think when for SMEs and a lot of mid-sized companies, we have limited resources. So these limited resources, coupled with conflicting priorities, sometimes and most of the time, the decisions we make actually are based on short or medium-term gains. So it needs to have a very immediate ROI for us to prioritize a decision. And I do think that ROI is kind of like an effect, and the other parts of this questionnaire is actually the cost of the ROI. For example, I would like to touch on a little bit about resistance to change as well, because that is one of the things that we face most in our company. Aqina Farm is actually an agriculture industry, and we work with a lot of farmers. So all of these farmers have been with us for 30 years. They have started with us since raising in a traditional open barn. In order for them to adopt to new technologies, it was really a very, very difficult thing to do. Even from digitalizing the documentation process, and we are not even talking about AI farming and all these things. It was very, very difficult to convince them, because to them, it actually seems extra work. So all of these things, even though when we implement all of this technology, all this very fancy technology, it actually doesn't translate to a good ROI, because we were unable to fully utilize the technology. There were a lot of gaps in between. So I would say they are all very, very, they are all very big barriers when it comes to SME and mid-sized companies. Yep.
Thank you. And Chick, Wan Hashimah, you meet companies. You help companies grow their digital agenda, grow their efficiency, grow their business. What do you hear from companies is the biggest challenge towards digital transformation?
Assalamualaikum and very good afternoon, everybody. For those who didn't know MIDA, actually, MIDA, we develop the industry and the services sector in Malaysia. Based on our experience, developing the industry in Malaysia, including the services, when we are dealing with the SMEs until the multinational, we notice that for multinational, it's quite easy when it comes to adopting digital transformation because it comes with the territory. They have to adopt this digital transformation. But when it comes to SME or
Mid-sized
practices, to convince the owner, the management of the company is quite challenging. Because first of all, we noticed that sometimes their establishment exists like 30, 40 years ago. So they are complacent already with what they have. So when we want to talk with them about the future changes that needs to be done, and what are the facilities that the government offer for them to transfer into this digital, they are not fully aware of what are the facilities that we offer to them. So we noticed that the challenge is more to convince the leaders or the management to go into the digital transformation. And then the rest, when it comes to, for example, the cost involved or the ROI, is if you look at the, what are the facilities, the one that we offer, for example, in terms of incentive or the reinvestment allowance under IRB, part of the equipment to go into this digital transformation, you actually can claim under our incentive or under the RA. It's just like we noticed that, like in MIDA, when we are evaluating certain project, we are dealing with the technical people. And then when it comes to this claiming part, the finance is supposed to come in because they are dealing with the claiming part. So, like when we are dealing with the technical part during the assessment, the message to claim that it's available to claim is not being transferred to the finance team. So this is the thing, the one that we noticed. So to answer that thing is more to convince the leaders to go into this digital transformation. And the rest, it will come naturally because there's a provision from the government for you to go into this transformation.
So continuing with that, would you like to share with the audience here, what are the couple of facilities that MIDA extends or schemes that MIDA extends to promote digital transformation which these companies can avail of?
In general, first of all, under our Promotion Investment Act, company can be considered for the incentive, pioneer status or ITA, where some of the equipments or things that you need to go into this digital transformation can be parked inside there. And then beside that incentive, after you enjoy the incentive under our PIA, you can enjoy another set of incentive under reinvestment allowance directly with IRB. But in MIDA alone, we introduced what we call the automation capital allowance since 10 years ago for companies to invest and can claim. Now that ACA being extended until 2027 up to 10 million ringgit offered for the manufacturing and services sector. Earlier on, we offer for the manufacturing sector from 2015 until year 2000. And budget year 2000, we include the services for company to can claim until 10 million.
So I'm going to ask the audience here, very quickly, show of hands. A lot of you said high implementation cost, including Eileen. And here we heard about schemes and incentives and claims. So how many of you have claimed from MIDA? None? Then we can't complain about the high implementation cost. There are funds available. I think what I would urge all of you to spend some time with Chief Wan Hashimah after this session and find out more about these, how your companies can avail of in supporting this digital transformation. There are schemes, incentives that MIDA offers. So I think one of the great takeaways from this session can be 500,000 ringgit sponsorship from MIDA, who knows? Yeah? In industry, I mean, I was quite puzzled, intrigued, and I later on learned the answer to why, how does pineapple and chicken go together? but that's what you've beautifully integrated. There are various technologies and digital solutions available. If you were to name one of them that you have leveraged in your business of farming, what would that be for the audience benefit?
I think there are a lot of aspects to it. So first is definitely the ERP system. I think that is kind of like the bread and butter of every businesses. I mean, we started 30 years ago and everything was manual back then. And I think in 2015 was when we started, developing our own ERP system. So that was very crucial in how we improve, a lot of operational efficiencies and also data accuracy. So I think that's very important. So, throughout the years, as technology get more and more advanced, there are a lot of, agri-tech solutions that came out. For example, the first thing that was popularized in poultry farming was, the modern closed house system. It's automated instead of the traditional open barn. So there are IoT sensors, that detects the environment, ammonia levels, humidity, temperature, and it actually helps to regulate the temperature or whatever necessary requirement for the environment. So it basically automates, for example, ventilation, when it gets too hot or gets too humid. These are the standard things in the poultry farming industry. And then we talk about, then we progress into AI. And that's something that I'll be sharing more later in my session. So there are a lot of, technology when it comes to AI, which is detecting, predicting the weight of the chicken before we harvest the chicken. So that is something that is quite new and has been implemented in neighboring countries such as Thailand or even European countries. But in Malaysia, there is not a lot of successful stories yet simply because we do not have the readiness to adopt this technology. And I think all in all, in agriculture, we need to cover a lot of aspects. One is the ERP system, which covers the financial aspect, the administrative aspect, and there is also the agriculture solution where you can look for innovative ways to enhance your productivity.
Thank you. Laurent, Chief Wan Hashimah said, for MNCs it comes easy, digital transformation, and you are from one of those MNCs. And I'm sure before Malaysia you've had experience in other geographies. Is there anything specific to Malaysia that you see being a hurdle or a barrier or a roadblock to digital or Industry 4.0 in manufacturing?
Well, I think understanding what's out there as solutions, that was mentioned by Jeffery earlier as well. There's thousands of solutions out there. You have people approaching you and trying to sell, their software or their equipment as the best equipment. And if as a small company you don't have the understanding as to what is good for you, what is not good to you, you need assistance. I think the government has done has been helping a lot here in doing this assessment, helping companies to go through a bit of soul searching and analyzing what they need and understand what they need and establish a roadmap and a plan in that direction. So that is helpful in bringing outsiders who understand what is available and then can tailor-made it for your own particular business or your own particular type of industry. That's important because I can still see a lot of people struggling with the first step as to really understanding. And there's a lot of conferences available and people join, but then you're overwhelmed with information. And so to have the guidance and someone that help you to do the first step, I think is good. And the assessment that the government has put in place in regards to automation, I think that helps a lot of companies in going through. And it was also mentioned by one Jeffery, and you mentioned it as well, from the commitment from the leadership, and we see sometimes, especially in smaller companies, that a bit of a generation gap. You might have the younger generation who have seen it and understand that that's the way to go, but the keys to the bank account is still with the parents or the father or the mother, and when they go and try to ask for the budget, it's like, come on, for 20 years we have run it this way, we'll continue for another 10 years. And it's tough for the younger generation to get through. So that's also one challenge that I can see. Maybe more related to the fact that you have a lot of businesses that go through multiple generations, and you need to have a proper understanding between the generation to move forward.
Thank you. And Laurent, you brought about a very important point, and that brings me to the next actually poll, and we want audience response to that. This is a interesting and a difficult journey of digital transformation. There are various factors that come into play, but one of the critical factors is which is the right technology, how do I go about implementing, do I implement this or that, and sometimes those programs can be quite expensive, and if you make a mistake in choosing the right solution, it can take the company backward multiple years. So it's important in this journey to find a good partner, and while there is MIDA, we also as Maxis kind of try to be that digital enabler for companies when they're seeking solutions. So that brings me to the next question, and please take out your mobile phones to answer what you think you look for when you're evaluating a partner for your digital transformation. What is, of these, which one do you think is the most important? QR code, please. Do we have, or automatically it's coming? Okay. Okay. We'll give a couple of minutes for the QR code. Yeah. Okay. Let's see the responses. And not surprising, they're all stacked close to each other, because you can't really pick one at the cost of the other two. You do seek all of these. You want somebody who has comprehensive service offering, somebody who's proven it. You can't do it with somebody who does not have credentials. And you also, different industries have different requirements. So something that fits, that's custom to you, that's tuned to you, rather than something which is, generic. So any thoughts on this? Would you have picked, apart from these three, anything else that you would think is important in selecting a potential digital transformation partner or partners? Eileen?
I think when choosing a vendor, especially in Malaysia, and especially if you are in a traditional industry, it's important for your vendors to understand your culture, okay? Because when you are in a very traditional industry, we're mostly, dealing with people who are not very tech savvy, or people who are generally very traditional. So, we have worked with a lot of vendors that are from overseas and are, I would say, rather fancy, but and it was a good solution. But when it comes to adaptation, that becomes a problem, because the vendor itself couldn't communicate with my team, and that creates a very big gap in communication. So I think it is also very important for your vendors' willingness, to educate and provide training to people who are not necessarily as familiar with technology. I think that's one thing that was part of our learnings as well. You can have a very fancy solution, but if your vendor is not willing to understand your culture, or willing to provide trainings and to accommodate to your team, I think that would bridge that would create a very big gap when it comes to adaptation.
Thank you. Laurent, would you have picked anything else other than these?
No, but just to pick on what Eileen just mentioned, I think it's important for both parties, because if you have misalignment at the beginning of a project, misunderstanding, at the end of the day, both parties will suffer.
Yeah.
Because you will claim you told me, I will claim that no, we told you, and at the end of the day, no one is happy. So it's very important to have this. And even if you mentioned coming from overseas, I mean, for me as a representative of a multinational company, it is important that we have a localization as well, to understand what people are used to locally, what do they need, what do they familiar to work with, and not just come with a bulldozer solution from outside and try to force it through. I'm happy to see that the end-to-end support is there on the first place, because that's part of the challenge and the difficulties. As you have many solution providers coming to you from different parts of the world at very different price level, it makes it even harder to understand which one should I pick. Should I go with the guy with dirt cheap, or should I go mid-range or top range, and what are the differences? And often you actually end up burning your finger with the end-to-end support, because depending where are your priorities, if you focus solely on ROI and you want the shortest payback possible, so you go for the cheapest solution, you might end up paying a higher price, because when something breaks down, no one is there to support you. And if it's your first project and your people are not accustomed or used to the technology, then you end up in trouble. So I'm happy to see it there, but definitely the communication at the beginning of the project is very important.
Thank you. Wan Hashimah, would you have any other input other than this?
We have to go back to basic, actually. Let's say if you are a manufacturing company, you just need to study when it comes to your own operation, you have study on the process basis. So you just need to identify where do you need to upgrade your operation. Because Laurent mentioned that when it comes to machinery or software or technology, it's available. It's just a matter of doing it. So what normally, based on our experience, we normally advise company, just study your current operations and look at your peers in the industry, identify who already successful in implementing it, ask them what did they do right and what went wrong, then you can learn from them for you to improve further. Because most of the time, people are afraid to start something that you didn't know, which involve money. So based on our experience, we always advise company. In fact, we always tell the company that if you have any problem in your operation, for example, just engage with MIDA, because in MIDA we have 7 industries divisions, and we have 5 services divisions that always can provide some assistance to you. Let's say if you identify certain things that you want to do, and if we feel that we have the contact for you to engage, then we will provide the contact for you to do that.
Yes, thank you. And I think you made a very important point, something I very, very strongly believe in. Especially mid-sized companies, SMBs, you don't have the talent pool, you don't have experts in your organization. I think the best form of risk mitigation is learning from peers. What are other companies in your industry doing, talking to them? I think you can save significant costs. And I think even if you're competing, in general, if you reach out to your peer group, they will tell you what to look out for, what to watch out for. And I think one can save costly mistakes and costly investments by just learning. And I would urge all of you to kind of reach out to your industry peers besides partners like us, MIDA, to kind of learn what did they do, what did they prioritize, what were the criterias before selecting a partner. So please do reach out. And that's the other thing I think from beginning with Jeff, and each one of you have mentioned this, is about talent. How do we create a capable digital talent in the organization? What are your thoughts on how ABB is doing it to create this pool of digital talent? The Minister for Digital mentioned few weeks back that the amount of AI engineers that Malaysia is going to need, we are 1/8 or 1/10 of that in terms of capable AI engineers. And I think while AI is one topic, you could take any topic, and that's what you will hear, talent deficit. So what is ABB doing in a couple of sentences on bridging this digital talent divide?
Well, I will pick up on AI because for quite some time, ABB has been monitoring AI, but not really taking a proactive approach to AI. Just maybe a look and see attitude at first. And then we realized that some of our competitors are already coming up with solutions, with products related or based on AI solution, and we started to realize that we are a little bit behind. And so that comes with what we discussed before. First, there has been an acknowledgement from the top management that this is happening. And at the board level, they decided that one particular board member should become the AI ambassador for the company and preach AI inside the company. It happens that we have a board member who is very well versed with AI, so that was easy for him to do that. But it started with spreading the message inside the company. And that's internal webinar, seminar, workshop, at different level of management, e-learnings. And now we have established a routine where there are working group within the company exchanging ideas on different topics, but where AI can be used in different part or processes. And so you have those working group, global working groups. And it's on a voluntary basis. So there's no restriction. If someone from Malaysia wants to participate and join a group with European, Americans, Australians, that's possible. But so the idea is just to push people to come up with solution proposals around specific topic, and also make everyone aware of what's available out there, so that you can then convert it into a solution for the company. And now we start to come up with our own solution. Of course, when you realize that you don't have it in-house, then you can also look at M&A and acquire company that have already developed particular knowledge. For example, in robotic vision, AI applied for vision systems is very important. And so we have acquired a few companies who were already specialized in there. That's another way to catch up as well.
Thank you. Eileen, moving from a MNC to a homegrown, if you will, family-built business, what are the things that you're doing to bridge the digital divide? And I'll ask a slightly dangerous question. Feel free to say no comment. We heard about generation and mindset gap. Have you encountered that as well in your business? So feel free to not answer the second one, but and if you have successfully overcome that, advice to a lot of business entrepreneurs who are second generation or third generation, some tips on how to navigate that.
Sure. Based on my limited knowledge and experience. Actually, as you guys know, we are an agriculture company. We are not a tech company. We are regular farmers who go to ladang every day, raise chickens and plant pineapples. So when it comes to tech, it's actually a very unfamiliar territory for us. How we actually started, when we hear about something new, it's always from conferences or exhibitions, or when we Google and we hear from peers. So that's how we collect information. And I think until like 2 years ago, the most advanced IT department we have, administrative person who manages our websites or check the Wi-Fi. They are not necessarily programmers or people who are very expertise in IT. So agriculture industry itself is originally what we consider is the 3D industry. It's dirty, dangerous, and difficult. So it is already hard to get talents in because we are often located in rural areas. When we talk about technology, it's usually people who are in the younger generation. And everybody actually wants to work in the urban areas. They don't want to come to, my kampong area to work. So how we started is we actually started working with external vendors first. And that is how we learn progressively on how we can enhance our internal digitalization journey. So throughout the process, our internal staff have actually learned a lot, and we actually kind of just nurture our internal staff who are interested to step into this division. And to be honest, truthfully, we are still having a hard time recruiting people. Not just, in the technology department, but just come to work in the farm. And this is something that, one thing that I feel very strongly is to nurture whoever is interested in this division and be open, and willing to learn and accept new ideas when it comes to technology advancement. I think that is something that, from our perspective, we would like to share. Yeah.
Thank you. And are you consciously skipping the second question?
No. Actually, to be honest, because this is a family business, I would say that my parents and my uncles and aunties are more open than us. So that is one of the advantage in Aqina Farm, is that we are always willing to try new things, to innovate, even though I guess that might be one of our downfalls as well, because we love trying new things. And we actually have a lot of failed projects that I will not mention here. But I guess innovation, it comes from, success comes from trying.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Are there any specific initiatives MIDA is driving to bridge this digital talent divide, and how can companies here leverage from some of those programs?
In MIDA, we have a division called Talent Division. Their job is actually in bridging what the industry wants and connect them with the TVET institutions or universities, in fact with HRDF also. We have few programs where we call all the universities, and we bring our expert from our division to tell the universities and TVET what are the things that's going to be happening in the future, so that they can prepare for our graduates. And the second one also, when it comes to companies' requirement, we've done also the career or job fair, the internship kind of thing. So we have done everything. In fact, even MIDA also, we are part of the organization that have to go into the transformation also.
Absolutely.
And we ourselves in MIDA also, we take initiative to train our staff to be prepared, because we are dealing with all the industries. We have to be ahead of the companies. So just to answer your second question, even MIDA also, we have like the old generation in MIDA like myself. And we hire the young generations also. It's all about training them, tell them that they are important working in MIDA for the country. Because we have to explain to them, we have to give them a purpose lah, basically. That working in MIDA is actually serving a country and develop the economy. Of course, some like, they didn't like the job in MIDA, for example, for them is too boring or whatsoever, then it's their choice to decide on their future. But most of the time, we notice that many stays in MIDA because we train them properly, we give exposure, we tell them that they are matters for the country, that's it.
You know, this digital divide has been my favorite topic over the years, and I have met, I would easily say 1,000, 1,500 CXOs, CEOs on this topic. And I've spent time learning what various companies are doing. And I think one thing that has stayed with me, and I'll urge that to be followed by, I think, irrespective of the industry you're in, something that one company has done well is the concept of reverse mentoring. Nestle has done a global program on reverse mentoring because your kid is far more smarter than you, which means that the young generation who is joining today are far more digitally savvy than some of the old ones like us. So how do, not just we train them, but how do they train the oldies in the company? And I think that's one of the things companies have leveraged, because how do you bridge that digital divide is not just recruiting new engineers, but how do you make that permeate all levels of the organization? Something to think about. Are you getting your youngsters to train you? An important thing to think about. And that brings me to the last question, and I'm going to again ask all of you to take out your mobile phones. And that is, if you have to give one word, not sentence, one word of advice to your fellow colleagues, business leaders, on what to do for digital transformation, what would that word be? We have the QR code. Can we get the QR code? Yeah, I think we've got scans done. We can go to the answers. Automation, do change, be brave, trust staff. Listen, need more money, please. Skydive is an interesting thing, and so is just go for it.
It's
practical.
a leftover from the first question.
Change or be changed. Explore. AI. Open to new ideas. Priorities. Future. Innovate. Invest. Openness. Mentality needs to change. Okay, let them come, keep them coming while I ask Laurent one word of advice to business leaders in this journey of digital transformation. What should they do? Be? What should they be?
Well, I suggested the do, just do it. But that's easy to say. But in more than one word, maybe start with small steps, what you can digest easily. And it's as simple as if people in your factories are still running around with pieces of paper to write down data, okay, move to an Excel sheet or a tablet and then centralize it to a Drive or a SharePoint and collect this information, so that they don't have to waste time in the evening or someone else wasting time just copying and bringing it all together. So those are very small things that you can do very easily. And then step by step, I think automatically you will discover that, oh, now we did this, we can do that next. And you just move on and more, and you will have more and more complex things to solve, but in a way that you fully understand, you know what is the logic behind it, and it's also easier to motivate your people to do it, because once they realize, oh yeah, he gave me a tablet and I don't have to spend an hour writing things down in the evening anymore, people understand the benefits of what you're trying to do, and then they might come themselves
with
new ideas and suggestions how to move further, yeah?
Eileen, one word of advice?
I would say priorities, because from my perspective and our perspective, for us, we have limited resources. So I think when it comes to digitalization or when you talk about technology, sometimes for us it can sound like a very daunting concept, because often it means high implementation costs, or we need to just from the finance department, it just simply means that they need to spend a lot of money. So I would say, pick your potion, identify what is your bottleneck and what is causing the most inefficiencies in your operation, and just target that. If this is, you just embark on your digitalization journey, I would say do it one by one, and don't rush over it, because, change management is very, very important. If, let's say, your staff or your team is not used to technology, or because it often means that, moving away from established routine, I think it's very important to get your employee to buy in when it comes to digitalization. Otherwise, you would end up with a lot of underutilization of technology, and that would often mean that you won't be generate a good ROI for this investment.
Thank you.
Yep.
And Wan Hashimah, one word of advice to companies?
No, there's no other way actually, because based on our experience, when we evaluate the automation capital allowance, that we noticed that by adopting this digital transformation or automation, we can see that we see at the result by implementing certain things. So we can see that the output increase, the mistake or defect reduce, man hour reduce, then labor also reduce. So these are the things that, because the bottom line for the company is you want to make profit, right? So by implementing certain things, you can see the result based on our assessment. So for us, MIDA, that's why we have certain facilities to assist company to go into this digital transformation. You have
absolutely, and I think that's why we wanted to put in one word, because see, it's a big topic, but if you have to nail it, I think all of you are saying it, there's no choice of not doing it. You can't sit idle, you have to do it. How you go about doing it, how do you prioritize, that becomes important, but I think the clear narrative, clear action is you have no option but to embrace technology, to leverage, to produce more, to do it efficiently, to get better customer satisfaction, all of it. So thank you very much, each one of you. We've been a great panel. And thank you, audience. You've been a wonderful audience. You've been participating, responding,